Show at 10 o'clock. We'll have Alan in studio in the final segment. A little crosstalk and celebrity birthdays for today. Covered a lot about the NBA, a lot of Kings. What a great win last night for Sacramento. Just their seventh win. Many heroes, including DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Westbrook, Schroeder, all went for 20 or more. Three different players at double-doubles between Westbrook and Schroeder and Maxime Reynaud. Just a quality win coming from 14 down to beat Houston. So a lot of discussion on that. Kings will play Detroit tomorrow night. And, it'll be 30 games in now. Again, this season just it goes quickly. And much like the NFL season, and we're efforting here, we're going to hopefully have a regular Monday at 9 o'clock guest. Matt Barrows joining us here momentarily. He's from The Athletic. And, of course, he is brought to you by our friends at Stockton Honda. Niners couldn't have had a much more beneficial week, as they needed a situation in which the Rams had to lose. That happened on Thursday night, which was just an amazing game, an incredible comeback, controversial game too. And then over the weekend as well, the Niners got a few of the breaks as far as the losses they need to secure a playoff spot. So they're in. They know that. Tonight's game won't change any of that. What it could change is their potential overall final seeding in the NFC. And what's still on the line for San Francisco is if they win their last three games, tonight in Indianapolis, next week against Chicago, the final week against Seattle, they would be the NFC's top seed. And that's a huge difference the way the playoffs are now constructed, with three wildcard teams, the other three division winners all in action, and only one team gets a bye. There's a time to rest, one less game. You thin out the field. You have a chance to prepare. There's so many advantages to that. It's not a guarantee. Doesn't mean you're going to get to the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean you're the best team. But if you're going to pick your path, that would be path number one. The second path would try to be the 5 seed, because you're going to play the 4th seed, which is the worst of the division winners. In this case, that's either going to be Carolina or Tampa Bay. So to me, those are the two most ideal paths for the 49ers, but the first one's the clear-cut choice. I mean, that's what you want. That means you're going to stay hot. That means you're winning to close out. You get an extra week. You know, there's still talk about Fred Warner possibly coming back at some point if the Niners can extend their season. So you just want to increase all your odds. And look, when you put every other team into another game situation, injuries happen. Things could happen to the Bears or the Eagles or Rams, or go down the list of NFC teams that are going to be there. You're avoiding that if you can get the bye week. So, again, the advantages, and then the biggest one maybe is home field. You don't want to have to travel, and if somehow, some way the Niners could get the 1 seed and host playoff games and win a couple of NFC games, including the championship, then they'd have the Super Bowl in their home stadium. I mean, it's starting to feel like things are lining up for them about as beautifully as they can be. But the saying goes, they got to take care of their own business. So that's what's on and up for grabs here tonight with the Niners in their matchup with Indianapolis. And the Colts, they've had that topsy-turvy season where they were definitely a surprise team out of the gates. What Daniel Jones was doing early stunned me and surprised a lot of people out there. And they took advantage of it. They got themselves out to a 7-1 start. Then they were 8-2, had their bye week, and they haven't won since. They've lost to the Chiefs, the Texans, the Jaguars, and the Seahawks last week. Now, of course, the Seahawks game last week, the headline was the first game without Daniel Jones and the first game with Phillip Rivers. Short time to get ready. Threw for just over 100 yards, threw a touchdown, led them for what they thought was going to be the game-winning field goal, only to have Seattle kick a field goal after that, and then Rivers threw a pick. But it's one of those guys that I find myself rooting for to play well, because I think it's an amazing story, but not rooting for him tonight because, Niners are in a spot where they need to win. They're going to have to figure out a way to slow down Jonathan Taylor. He's had an incredible year. And, keep Phillip Rivers on that short check down, kind of underneath passing game, limit Taylor, and get that offense cooking. The Niners offense has been good lately. Kyle Shanahan's had a brilliant season. I'd expect more of the same from him and this team. And now that Brock Purdy is, he's definitely back, and you're getting the best version of him. And that offense last week that scored 37 points against the Titans. And we looked at these games after they lost to the Rams and said they're going to have to beat the Cardinals, find a way to beat the Panthers, beat the Browns, beat the Titans. They did it. They've done that after that kind of loss-win stretch that they were in. Now they've won 4 in a row, and they put themselves in this amazing opportunistic position. Great coaching this year. And sometimes when you hear that said, and maybe I've been guilty of it as well, but a lot of people think, well, it's roster is more important than coaching. And it might be in the end, but they really go together. Football is such a team sport. You could have the best quarterback. That'll give you a chance, but you need a good line. You need a good running game. You need complementary defense. You need special teams. You need good coaching, good play calling, coordinating, all that stuff. All these things are factors in trying to build a good football team. And the 49ers, I think a strength since he has been there. I think Kyle Shanahan's a phenomenal coach. I think he's one of the great play callers in the league. If I was a quarterback or a skill player, I'd love to play for him. He makes a lot of people better. And then you give him good weapons like McCaffrey and Kittle and Purdy, who's developing into a good quarterback. That's trouble. That's trouble for opposing teams, and that's where the Niners are right now, putting themselves in a pretty favorable position. All right, let's go to our phone lines and check in with our guest today. It's Matt Barrows from The Athletic, brought to you by our friends at Stockton Honda. Matt, Jason Ross here. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy holidays. Hopefully Christmas is it coming at the right time for you? I know you probably don't really get much of a break because you got football, and more football.
Yeah, that happens. At least there's no game on Christmas this year. That wasn't the case a couple of years ago with that. Remember that Ravens game where they didn't even play well. But it's fine. It's par for the course. That's what you get when you become a sports guy. You have to work on Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and all that stuff.
Well, when we last talked, Matt, we were saying, look, the Niners have done a good job to put themselves in a good spot. That spot has gotten even better since we talked last Thursday, a great Thursday night game where it looked like the Rams had it. The Seahawks came back. They are now the 1 seed. But what that did, paired with some losses yesterday, the Niners not only have clinched a playoff spot, they also now control their destiny if they can win tonight, win next week, and win the final game. Somehow, some way, Matt, this team would be the 1 seed, and if everything went right, they could be at home for the Super Bowl. What an amazing year they've put themselves in this position.
For sure, and it's not just not having to travel and playing in your home field and in your home locker room. Remember, the last time they went to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, they had to practice at UNLV, and it was a big, big deal for them because they were not satisfied with the playing surface or the practicing surface at UNLV. They usually practice on turf, and they put grass over it, and it was maybe hastily done. Certainly not to their satisfaction. They may be the most sensitive team in the NFL to playing surface, and you can argue whether that's good or bad. But my point being that it would be the most ideal situation. They could practice on their home practice field, and not have to worry about that facet of it, which was frankly a big worry the last time they were in the big game.
Yeah, as we talked to Matt Barrows from The Athletic, and, of course, he's brought to you each and every Monday by Stockton Honda. So let's get to tonight's game. Again, this is a game that there can't be any slip-up to get to the goals that they want to be in that advantageous position. They got to beat this Colts team that's also desperate tonight, Matt. They were cooking, and now they're close to being cooked at this point if they can't find a way to win tonight. So what are your thoughts on this matchup and how the Niners can keep this thing rolling?
Yeah, it's all about stopping the run, all about stopping Jonathan Taylor. And the 49ers have had trouble doing that against lesser teams, against lesser running backs. So I think that they know what their challenge is. And the last time they had a game like this, remember, they went to Tampa in week 6, and that was the game that Fred Warner got hurt in. And it was fairly early in the game, and the defense was, out of whack after that, and they let up some big plays, and then the communication wasn't very good. And the following week, they were going to host Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and that Falcons rushing attack. And, the thought was, oh boy, without Fred Warner, without Nick Bosa, this team is going to struggle. And really, the linebacking crew in particular, Tatum Bethune and D. Winters, stepped up in that game, and they held Robinson to 40 yards, and just a lot of electricity in the building that night. And that's what they have to kind of summon for this game. Tatum Bethune will be back. I think something to look for is, okay, he's back, but he's missed a lot of football games. And one of the themes this season is guys that miss a lot of games, whether you're George Kittle or Brock Purdy or anyone else, you need a couple of games to sort of get back into the flow of things. And those guys were not great in the first games back, but they quickly refound their footing and are performing really well now. So the question would be, how long does it take Tatum Bethune, Sam Oguanu, Yetur Gross-Matos, some of the reinforcements that they're getting for this game to really kind of hit top speed, hit their stride?
Matt, I'm thinking about that, of the things they've been dealt as a team with a ton of injuries on offense, but certainly on the defense that you're alluding to, that Warner gets hurt in that game, and then they play that great run defensive game against the Falcons after that. When you kind of look at the big picture of the defense, how much credit should a guy like Robert Saleh get for whether it's his own personality and the energy he coaches with to his schemes? How much does Saleh deserve to kind of keeping this thing together?
Yeah, a ton. I mean, I just can't imagine this scenario happening in either of the two most recent years, where you lose Nick Bosa and then you lose Fred Warner and then you lose your number 1 draft pick, Mykal Williams. I can't imagine that happening under Steve Wilks or Nick Sorensen and not and the team not going through just, a sort of a crushing emotional stretch, or just kind of falling apart the rest of the season. So I do think that Saleh and this team's confidence in Saleh, I think that's the key, that this is the guy that's done it. He's done it well. The team leaders respect him, and he's sort of kind of kept it all together when really, by all measures, it should have fallen apart. So I think that's a credit to him. It's a credit to Kyle Shanahan. I'm sure that Bosa and Warner are still there. Their voices are still there in the locker room, in the meeting room, and I think that that's been important as well. But really, it's a no-name defense. I mean, maybe Diamador Lenore is the most well-known guy among those starting 11. So it's I think if they do, they've made the playoffs. If they somehow got the number 1 seed, it's such a massive story of how this defense was able to certainly not excel, but kind of stay together during a very challenging season.
Yeah, and it feels like, you would know better, you're closer to all these guys, but ever since Saleh left, and really D'Amico Ryans after that, I just it just looks like, the appearance-wise, that Kyle Shanahan just has such a sense of trust based on his past success with Saleh, based on the success this year, that he's just got that covered, and Kyle can kind of just focus on team things and certainly on the offense. Yeah,
for sure. There's a huge level of trust. The critique of Shanahan these last 2 years, since D'Amico Ryans left, is that he's fallen in love with the scheme. And so he's brought in guys who, and Steve Wilks didn't run the scheme but was asked to, so really not his bailiwick as far as this defense. And then in Sorensen, someone who was really a little-known figure, but knew the scheme really well, and that's how he got the job. So they've been sort of forcing square pegs into round holes, and obviously, Saleh is the correct piece. That's the piece that Shanahan's wanted all along, him or D'Amico Ryans. And, you're seeing that cohesion this year.
As far as the offensive side of things tonight for the 49ers, I think everything for the most part is pretty clear. Pearsall is out, though, for tonight, correct?
Yeah, Ricky Pearsall's out for tonight, and it'll be Kendrick Bourne as the starter. And, to me, that's an interesting storyline this year because Bourne came in week 2 and really hit it off with Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. Mac Jones was his teammate in New England. They were simpatico. They were on the same page. When Brock Purdy came back briefly in week 4 and then against the Cardinals a few weeks ago, Kendrick Bourne kind of went away. I mean, he barely got the ball. I think he had something like 18 yards in the last 3 weeks. And all of that came in the most recent games. Point being is that he had a great relationship chemistry with Mac Jones, didn't have that with Brock Purdy, wasn't here, throughout the spring, throughout the summer, et cetera, but you started to see that warm up a little bit against the Titans last Sunday. And, whether that's taken another step or not, I think that's going to be a big deal tonight.
Matt, as we look at this team offensively too, Christian McCaffrey would have to have a big couple of weeks in the receiving department to get to 1,000 yards. He should get there in rushing yards. For a guy that, has missed time in the last year or so, and then there was even some question marks right at the very end of camp. They've asked a lot of him, and, man, I don't know where they would be this year with the injuries and everything they've had to go through, what this year would be like if McCaffrey did not have this year that he's having.
Yeah, for sure, especially the first 8 games. He was the offense, really was propped up on him. Tonight will be interesting because, without Ricky Pearsall, it's more of a first half of the season game. So they don't have all of their pass-catching threats in there, and I wonder whether they will lean on McCaffrey like they did early on. George Kittle is back. He wasn't there for most of the early part of the season as well. But if there's ever a game for Christian McCaffrey to kind of catch back up in the pass receiving part of that 1,000 equation, I think that this would be it, where you're probably not going to be gaining huge amounts of yards against a very good Colts defense, and you sort of have to pick your way down the field. This might be a first half of the season type of game for the 49ers. And
if it is for McCaffrey, I think I read this. I think, what is he, about 7 catches away from breaking Roger Craig's team record for running back? I mean, it's going to happen. It might happen tonight.
It could, absolutely could happen tonight. There are a lot of old records. George Kittle's got a couple, touchdowns for a 49ers tight end. He's got to catch Vernon Davis in that. I think that McCaffrey has 9 rushing touchdowns. He has the team record with 14, which he set in 2023. And then in second place, there's like 5 guys with 10. Like Frank Gore is one of them. Joe Perry is another. So with just 2 more rushing touchdowns, Christian McCaffrey would have first and second place in that category, which is astounding, just kind of given the great backs who have been through this organization.
Matt Barrows joining us, writes for The Athletic, does an amazing job there. Also brought to you by Stockton Honda. I don't know if this is too far removed, but to me, always kind of like once a Niner, always a Niner. But DeForest Buckner's been injured, but might be activated tonight. Is that a storyline or just, I don't know, is there still some connection there?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, to me, it's one of the organization's worst decisions of the past, decade, trading him. They really haven't found that interior guy ever since they traded him to Indianapolis. It was going to be, of course, Javon Kinlaw, who they got with the number 1 pick that they obtained from the Colts in that trade. But, to me, DeForest Buckner, I know he's coming off of injury, and what I'm going to say seems ironic, but one of his greatest gifts is that he has played so many seasons without getting injured. And that's been the theme for the 49ers. And, one of the issues is that they traded a real kind of Iron Man in the middle of that defense. So, I'm sure he's excited to play the 49ers. He had a good game when they played in Levi's Stadium, 4 years ago, that rain game. And I'm sure he's going to be trying to have a big mark. This is a good defense, and it was a good defense the last few weeks without DeForest Buckner, and he just makes it that much better.
Another obviously massive storyline will be the quarterback, not only Brock Purdy, but certainly Phillip Rivers. It's amazing what he was able to do to even play last week. He'll be playing tonight, and we know Kyle Shanahan has had his eye on him before. Just your own perspective of covering this league for a long time. How amazing is this Phillip Rivers story? And even if he doesn't even win a game at QB, it's just, I can't believe it. It's something I'm rooting for him. I don't want him to win tonight, but I'm rooting for him in that story.
Yeah, it is remarkable. I mean, it's such a competitive league, and it's, survival of the fittest, and you're always competing, and someone's always coming for your job. And the idea that you can kind of retire for 4 years and then, just kind of pick it up and come in and almost lead your team to a win in Seattle is astounding. And it underscores that position in particular, quarterback, is so much mental. I mean, Phillip Rivers can't run anymore, and his arm is not as good as it was 5 years ago. But the mere fact that he's able to, master the defense, get the ball out quickly, deliver it to the right spots, that's everything in this game. And it's why Brock Purdy succeeds. It's why Mac Jones succeeds. It's the mental part of the game and how quickly you can process it is what really is the key. And that's not arm strength. It's not scrambling. Those are, those things assist in big ways. But the key facet, the key factor is how quickly your brain works. And Phillip Rivers' brain works really quickly. And so it's going to be that dynamic between Jonathan Taylor and Phillip Rivers that wins or doesn't win the Colts the game. If I'm sure the game plan for the Colts is like it was against the Seahawks, which is get rid of the ball quickly. Don't go through a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Progressions, and make sure that you're not getting hit a lot, and that's going to hinge on how well Jonathan Taylor does on first and second down. So I think it's really clear what the 49ers have to do. I think it's really clear what the Colts are trying to do. And the question is whether the 49ers can stop that. And that's what this game boils down to.
One last one for you, Matt. I'm thinking about what you just said about Kyle or really Phillip Rivers or any quarterback, Brock Purdy, how quickly they process. We know that's really important to the Kyle Shanahan scheme and his offense. In your years of covering the Niners and talking to Kyle, to me that seems very instinctual, like you either have it or you don't. Is that something he feels that he can also teach and improve on, or is that like you either, like I said, have it or you don't on that processing?
Improve on, I think, is probably the right way to phrase it. That, everybody remembers that Shanahan had a fondness for Mac Jones in the 2021 draft. And, the knock on Jones is that he just didn't have any of the other qualities. He didn't have a big arm. He certainly didn't scramble well or as well as some of these other guys. And I would bet that, that lesson of 2021 has caused Kyle Shanahan to double down on the mental part of it. That's what the important part is. If you get me a guy that can go through the progressions, that throws it to the right spot, that has anticipation, I can make him work in this offense. So that's really kind of an interesting question probably for, January, February, March. If they're able to trade Mac Jones, then who becomes Kyle Shanahan's new project? Who can Kyle Shanahan and his staff resurrect next, because it would be kind of a feather in their cap to have that as part of their draft pick formula, that every couple of years or so we can get a fairly decent draft pick because we've developed a really good backup quarterback behind Brock Purdy. And there's some interesting candidates out there. Everyone's going to bring up Zach Wilson, who was part of the same draft that Mac Jones was. Really gifted arm, really gifted athleticism. And the question is whether he has that processing skill, whether he has that anticipation. Didn't show it in his first couple of stops. So I think that will test your question really well, because if they have an opportunity to sign Zach Wilson and they pass, I think it's because Kyle Shanahan realizes, okay, there are certain things that I can't teach these guys. They have to have that quality, and I can improve on it, but I can't give it to that guy.
Well, tonight should be fun to see how this one plays out. Matt, thank you as always. We encourage everybody to check out your great work at The Athletic, and we will talk to you again next Monday after the Bears game.
Okay. Happy holidays to Jason and to Dave and to everybody at the station.
Thank you. You too, Matt. We appreciate it.
Okay. Talk to you.
All right. That is Matt Barrows joining us. We always appreciate Matt checking with us each and every Monday. All right. We will take the break here. When we come back, we still have to get to